Hello, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea. My name is Brittany. So sorry for the delay in time. They are replacing some of the windows in my area, and they were going to do it today, and then they weren't doing it today. But welcome to, again, Afternoon Tea. It is Friday, July 24th. And obviously, it's all pretty much about Meghan's recent photo dump and sort of kind of how revolting it is in some ways. In particular, the picture of the kids and Harry and her, obviously, going to lay flowers at the grave of Diana. This woman has no sense. She doesn't have any sense at all. It's probably about one of the stupidest things Meghan Markle can do is to commoditize her dead mother-in-law and her children. So this is obviously just hugely breaking, and also just demonstrates why Meghan Markle was such a horrific choice as a spouse for Harry, basically in every way, because I just cannot fathom for a second Catherine, really anyone ever exploiting the death of William and Harry's mother the way that Meghan is. And if you don't think she's exploiting, if you don't think she's kind of taking the situation and twisting it and commoditizing off of all this, then you got another thing coming. Because oh man, it's not great. It's not great. And thank you guys so much for all the comments about the hair. We just got it done today. We are looking good after letting the hair go a little bit. I probably waited too long. I was just like, lots and lots going on, ladies and gentlemen, but back to be here in form with you guys. Again, we'll be talking about that. We may touch a little bit on the Belgian Royals because there was an interesting survey that came out, but I think we'll probably mostly just focus on the pictures because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and I just really hope that, oh man, we get some more things out of this. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, especially on a Friday, especially an hour late. And we do have a couple of super chats and things that came in already. We have DS who gave a $4.99 super chat saying, I can't even right now with Meghan. I'm out of words to describe her. Hope the rumors of this new fling Harry has are true. Just kidding. Yeah, I don't think any of the rumors that are being floated around right now, I just don't think any of them are really true when it comes to Harry. And of course, surrogacy out of Colorado don't actually really buy any of those stories. I don't think Harry is in there yet to be seeking out a distraction of the female variety. I don't think he's quite there yet. He may get there at some point, but I just don't think he's there. So that's just my thought. We also have Carol who gifted 1 Royal News Network membership. Thank you so much, Carol. And Mystica Rose who gifted 5 Royal News Network memberships as well. Thank you so much, Mystica Rose, guys. Oh my goodness. So let's dig in. Okay, so guys, let's bring it up here. And we'll just go through every picture. I briefly touched on them last night. And to be honest, again, guys, I totally missed the laying that they were at Althorpe. I totally missed that. And so this looks like the most staged picture ever. It looks like it's part of some sort of photo shoot or something. It just feels very, very odd. At least to me, it does. Maybe that's just me. But it just feels very, very odd. I know some people have mentioned that they think Harry has more hair on top. And I mean, this would be great too to go over some of the, I think, conspiracies that are being thrown around there right now. But when it comes to Harry's hair, because this picture is in black and white, I think it doesn't make the contrast show up quite so much of his baldness. And he does have more up here in front. This is why, guys, he is so like just continuing on with keeping all the hair is like he has this little thicker chunk right here in front. And so it kind of camouflages how bad things are. You really see how bad things are from the side of his head, from the back of his head. He really has a Friar Tuck effect now. But in the front, I think he can fool himself and stuff. And black and white, it just does, or grayscale can disrupt what you think you see. So I don't think this is necessarily proof, quote unquote, that this is from a different time of year or anything like that. I definitely don't think that's the case. I just think it's the contrast. Also, I believe Meghan still is not wearing her engagement ring or her eternity band that Prince Harry gave her. So this is how many months now? I'll have to go back and check. Again, I need to do a whole video on this, but from what I can tell, I don't think she's worn her engagement ring much of this year, to be honest. And the engagement ring has disappeared before and reappeared, like it disappeared for a whole year and reappeared. So I don't know why she does that because it's a little weird. Like you could maybe argue she's trying to like subtly mimic Catherine when Catherine's engagement ring obviously went away. But I think it's another ring upgrade, would be my guess, maybe. Or maybe she uses it as a way to kind of punish Harry or something. I don't know. But especially because Catherine got an upgrade of her eternity bands. Maybe Meghan's a little jealous. So she's got to get some herself because Meghan is, I think, insanely jealous of Catherine, of the rest of the royals, everything. She remains insanely jealous. And she tries to pull all these weird power moves, guys, and it just doesn't work. And it's just so petty and it's just so incredibly obvious. You don't have to copy everybody all the time. You don't have to put these little hints and echoes. And like, this is why Meghan fails so badly. Like, somebody wrote today on X to me talking about how that when it comes to Meghan, I mean, all the stories are just so negative about her. It's like, well, she's the one who kind of caused the negativity. Like, we are not reacting in a vacuum. We are reacting to the pattern of behavior Meghan Markle has set up for basically a decade at this point. And so the negative reaction to her is a result of, I would argue, lies, hypocrisy, exploiting Diana, exploiting Harry, exploiting the royals, treating the royals badly. Like all that stuff has culminated in Meghan reacting in particular ways. And she can't, I mean, it was so stupid of her to marry Harry in a way on multiple levels. Number one is she really wanted to have a great, I think, like, or at least a boost to her acting career in Hollywood. The best thing to do would be to date and dump Harry, not marry him. That was very dumb because she may be able to do things better without the royal title and stuff like that. But also, if you marry a royal, especially as a royal spouse to the spare, you will always be compared to the heir's wife. And how you survive that is basically being stronger in your let's say own person and finding a niche for yourself where you're not having to constantly compete. Because if you're constantly having to compete, you will come up short pretty much every time. And it's just not worth the mental energy. And Meghan just can't do that. She just can't, like, she is constantly trying here. And it's just really, really bad. All right, next is Meghan and Lily going, I guess, to the beach in Portugal. And this again, guys, just brings up my whole issue of why in the world do they need a vacation home in Portugal that looks like California? Again, I've spent some time in Portugal. Portugal looks like California. So why did you buy a vacation home in basically the exact same place? It's just so weird to me. And again, what I think is that they're going to do is, again, Portugal is a staging ground. Maybe they sell their Montecito house, relocate to Portugal. This is their first full like summer thing in Portugal. So maybe they relocate there at some point. It's a way for them to kind of get out of the Hollywood bubble and kind of like they can probably, I think they would position themselves in some sort of way, an angle, and then maybe they get a home in the UK or something. I don't know. And also, as somebody pointed out, I think this is a closed resort, but this also proves that Harry and Meghan can travel around. And guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody follows them. Nobody takes pictures of them. We wouldn't even know they are anywhere because no one cares. And again, if somebody maybe saw them and wanted to take a picture, maybe they would. Or honestly, people just have better things to do with their lives than talk about this. And so I think, again, a little odd. And I always wonder who takes some of these pictures because it's obviously such a setup type thing. And then Meghan in some sort of class thing. I don't care. And then this may be at Althorpe too, although it's hard to tell. This could be at Highgrove as well. And so it's hard to tell exactly with this picture. And again, we're getting to the picture. But see here, if you're watching through these series of pictures, she kind of, let's say, front loads it with just like, oh, some boring vanilla, whatever. And then she'll get to the money shot. And of course, that's where we'll spend the majority of our time. And the way the media, okay, I have to say too, and it's probably how Meghan's pushing her PR. But man, the way they spin some of these pieces, oh, look, Archie's just like Meghan. He's walking around barefoot. And then we'll get to the picture of Lily being thrown up to the air. And then she's like, and then the media is like, oh, look, Lily's diving just like Diana. I'm like, he's throwing a freaking child up in the air. And then another one was like, oh, how you can recreate Meghan's summer wardrobe. And I was like, this is all basic fashion pieces. There is nothing literally to emulate, you could say, because there's nothing interesting about Meghan's stuff and what she wears. None of it's super exciting. It's all pretty basic. All right, so wherever they are in Portugal, Harry throwing Lily up in the air. Now, somebody has speculated that this could be at Highgrove. It might be. I don't know. Let's see. Pool at Highgrove. Let's see if well, since it's a private estate, we don't have a picture of the pool. But it could be the pool. I kind of thought it might be at their house, but maybe in California, but maybe it's not. So we'll just jump over here to this tab real quick. You can see the pool there at Highgrove House. So could be that pool. And I've seen some other people talking about AI or that this is fake or whatever. Guys, this looks very, very natural. And somebody mentioned as well, they think the pool's too shallow. I really don't think it is. Harry's 6'2". It's pretty high up on his waist here. That must be at least 4 feet deep of water. That's plenty for a kid. I spent all my time going crazy in the water. And especially if you are from California, and I grew up in California, you spend a lot of time in pools. Now, I know that's similar in other places, but in some ways, California more, because if you're in the Midwest, yes, it gets really hot and humid, but you also have to deal with thunderstorms, which you just don't have to deal with in California. And so, like, again, we spent all summer in California, probably did some crazy things that people would think is unsafe. It's really not that unsafe. Somebody also said it looked like her hair was defying gravity. I was like, no. No. So it definitely could be Highgrove here. Don't know that for sure because their pool's a little similar, but and I don't know who that is. That could be Archie, but it kind of looks like a woman with her hair in a clip. So maybe it's Meghan. I don't know. And then them at the beach. I find this picture to be just odd. I just think it's weird. It's just them. Not that many people at the beach, obviously, but that's maybe typical for that beach. And it's like, why do we need Meghan and her flat pancake booty here? Like watching her children and her husband in the water when she's in tennis shoes. And as many people said that it's like Diana's black swimsuit. So she has to wear, again, people are making the comparison. I think it's a little excessive. I think sometimes people overly comment about the comparison that Meghan Markle is constantly making comparisons to Diana. But I mean, sometimes too, some things are like she's kind of obviously making probably a little bit of nods, and she's obviously wearing some tennis shoes as well, which are a little weird. Somebody mentioned that I guess the sand is really hot in that region, so maybe that's why she's wearing the tennis shoes. But obviously as well, you could wear swim shoes. I don't know. I just don't really need to see Meghan in a swimsuit. I think and especially, from any angle, I just don't think it's anything we need. Yeah, I think Carol said it's a tacky shot. Yeah, it's kind of a tacky shot. It is. It is. It just looks a little, I don't know, just very staged in a way, if you know what I mean. And where is all their stuff, by the way? And again, who is taking these pictures? Somebody mentioned Marcus Anderson. That is probably because He is the third one in their marriage. So at some point, I am so positive, guys. Harry will get on a podcast one day and go, there were 3 of us in this marriage, me, Meghan, and Marcus Anderson. That would be my guess. Oh, somebody else said the nanny. The nanny is a distinct possibility as well. Although I feel like because of the whole weird Soho House connection in Portugal as well, because she needed Soho House to decorate her house. Meghan's utterly bizarre obsession with Soho House, it just boggles the mind. I do not understand the obsession. Like, I don't get it at all. It's really, really weird. And that she needs them to decorate her home tells me that she has no decorating instinct, no taste, no style, because she constantly wants to emulate somebody else. That's a sign that you can take inspiration from things. But I think Meghan's direction was literally make my house just like the Soho House in Portugal or whatever, or maybe England or LA or whatever. That she's like, just make my house exactly like the Soho House. I was like, do you not have any taste, any style? Like, the whole idea is that you take influences from different things. Like, I still want to get it from Pottery Barn at some point, but I haven't pulled the trigger. But there is a bed duvet that is, I usually go with pink, but that one has lavender. And I'd like to go and get like more bushels of lavender if I do make it to Nice in September, maybe even November. I want to get some bushels of lavender to bring back and hopefully like make sure like they don't kind of get destroyed or whatever. Because I would like, there's a duvet with like lavender things on it, and I just think it's really pretty. So all that to say that I would maybe go with more of, I've gone with a Paris theme in my house. I may go at some point with more of a Provence theme and with a lavender effect. So I moved from pink more to lavender because I used to have all this Eiffel Tower stuff and I'm kind of done with that. So anyways, all that to say, Meghan has no taste, has no style because she literally farms it out to somebody else. And I feel like that tells you a lot about Meghan, is that she has zero creative instinct at all. Zero, none. She can write pretty, but that's about it. That's the extent of her creative talents. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's actually understanding that and owning that. She can plate beautifully. She can wrap presents. She can write pretty, but she doesn't really have a creative instinct in her body beyond that. So anyways, just pointing that out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, is it the next one? Nope. We do have lavender. Speaking of lavender, we do have it. Again, I want to go back to Provence and go there when the lavender is in season so I can pick a bunch of it and take it home. So, and this is the money shot, guys. So let's see how many slides she buried this in. Okay. 1, 2. So Harry in the front, obviously, with her, and then Lily next. So again, favoritism. 3, 4, Archie's forward back. 5, 6, another Lily. 7, 8, 9. So she buries this at picture number 9. Lily, of course, is very, very framed here. She's the person of importance to Meghan. She's a person of importance. I think that is impossible to deny again. And I'm not trying to do this just to be negative or anything like that. It's very, very obvious at this point that Meghan highly has some obvious favoritism for her daughter over her son. And that's, again, so impossible to ignore. I am not trying to do that to be mean and rude. Like, she just puts it out there. Like, what else am I supposed to think? You just, that the daughter here is first and foremost in shot, in like the most important. Meghan puts so much emphasis on Lily. It's really, 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 really sad. But here's where this picture is a massive, glaring, horrible, revolting problem. You can see it here. So Archie and Harry, because they're the boys, I guess, are forced to carry huge bouquets of flowers. This is at Althorpe. So where are they going? And I honestly didn't catch that this was at Althorpe, and I said this in my video last night because to me, it looks like California because the grass is dry like that, and that happens in California in the summertime or, in other places in the summertime too when it gets too hot. Obviously, England is known for being quite green and luscious, but they have had a big heat wave this year. So you definitely see that reflected. But they're at Althorpe, literally on their way to Diana's grave. On their way to Diana's grave is her granddaughter, her grandson, and her son being photographed by the daughter-in-law. And what's really disgusting about this is think of how Diana died. How did Diana die? By being photographed. In part. It wasn't entirely that part, but the last thing Diana may have seen in her life is flashes from cameras. And what does her daughter-in-law do? Makes her death into a photo shoot, basically. Yes, they are not at the island where her grave is. Yes, it's not the grave, but it's so freaking close. And she's following, I think somebody just mentioned it too. She's following, in some ways, following the kids with the camera like Diana was followed by the photographers. That Harry doesn't see that is insane to me. That he does not see how Meghan Markle is exploiting him, his children, and his mother for financial gain. It's disgusting. It's revolting. I'm like disturbed. Like, why would you do this? You don't need to do this. You don't need to exploit Diana's tragic death from photographers in part. Like, if it was maybe something else, if maybe she had cancer or something, I wouldn't get as gaudy and ghoulish as it is. But Diana died being chased by the paparazzi, and within her dying moments, and we heard Harry talk about this in a documentary. What did he look at? Pictures of her while she was dying in the back of that car. And he didn't see all the pictures of it, but she was literally dying. People were taking pictures. And what does his wife do? Take pictures while he's going to put flowers on her grave after she died from getting, in part, her photograph taken. And the last thing she's seeing being a flashbulb. I have no issue with them going to see Diana and her graveside. No issue with that, nor should anybody else. But have we ever seen William, Catherine, or their children at Althorpe, let alone planting flowers for Diana's grave? No. I imagine William will be incensed by this because it's just violating their mother, publicizing her in such a creepy, awful way. You can show that you are at the residence without showing Harry and Archie and Lily parading to the gravesite for your benefit, for your financial benefit, to commoditize it. Because even if you can definitely monetize on Instagram, I think it's more connected to reels and pictures, but this is commoditization. Meghan is commodifying Diana's birth for their financial gain. It's impossible not to see that. It's impossible. Harry's stupid, but we understand why. And I would imagine there are pictures at the graveside of Meghan. Even, she does a solemn thing for a second. And then she's like, okay, kids, Harry, let's take a picture right here. Let me take the picture of the flowers. And do you know why we know this about Meghan Markle? Because she's done this before. This is a woman who flew halfway around the country to a community she has no connection to a place she has no connection to a state she has no connection to, and paraded herself in front of the memorials of dead children for attention. This woman has zero boundaries. Zero. It's really disgusting. It's absolutely revolting. And it just goes to show Meghan is kind of the worst type of influencer. She reminds me a little bit of Ruby Frankie. I've mentioned her before, even showed a bit of the video where Ruby Frankie was not in an accident, but happened to see a car accident. The first thing she does is go, kids, oh my gosh, we were in a car accident. Can you believe it? She's got her camera there. And she has to go and like interfere in the reaction and the kind of the part of the accident, the sorry, um aftermath of this accident with her camera talking to people who were in this accident. I was like, and she's kind of getting up on herself going, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is so crazy. Yada yada yada. And Meghan is doing that exact same thing. The exact same thing. You should have some self-reflection. You should have some respect for your mother-in-law. You should have some respect for your husband and your children. And why aren't they walking together? Why aren't, as somebody mentioned this on X, why aren't they walking together as a family? Why is this moment now being deliberately orchestrated for clicks and for Instagram? There, it's, I respect, they're 100% guys can be influencers that you can watch and that you can enjoy. I enjoy them. But I really respect people who are like, I am not going to make a fuss out of a personal tragedy, a family tragedy. It's like that guy on YouTube. And I haven't seen how this played out because there were some questions over whether the whole thing was a stunt. Went public with the decision by him and his wife to, again, this is somewhat allegedly, abort their child who was apparently diagnosed in the womb with Down syndrome. That'd be more of a late-term style abortion. And just to be fair, Down syndrome diagnoses aren't always 100% true and accurate. So he commoditized aborting their child. And then when people were revolted by that, because they were absolutely revolted by it, got super defensive and kept monetizing the death of his unborn baby. You can agree with abortion, don't agree with abortion, but by any human metric, that is revolting to exploit such a personal, tragic moment. That is not something you exploit for clicks. That is just not something you do. Now, sometimes there's some cases where somebody takes you through their cancer journey and diagnosis, and I think that's fine. Or some of their health battles, I think that's fine. But there's just something utterly disgusting about this. Again, especially considering the way Diana died and how William and Catherine have never talked about really going to Diana's grave together. They have never talked about that. I imagine they've been several times. They don't talk about it. And why? Because there's things you don't talk about. There's things you don't promote. And I saw some people on there that were talking about how, well, the whales is post their kids. Yes, that's part of, again, the social agreement between royals and their subjects is that they post pictures of their children. But Catherine and William aren't commoditizing them. They're posting them so people can see them grow up and be invested in who these young people are. These children are, who they will grow up to be, how they will help lead the UK into the future. This is not that. This is particularly getting a reaction out of people. And I mean, she's good at it. You have to give her credit. Getting a reaction out of people to make money for herself and to, I think, also kind of make the connection in one way or another. Is like, well, I had the grandchildren of Princess Diana, don't you know? Again, like, I just get such the ick factor from that. There has never been a point ever where Catherine is basically like, I've got Princess Diana's grandchildren, don't you know? I made them, I birthed them. These are Princess Diana's kids, don't you know? She's never ever done that, ever. But Meghan has. Meghan has paraded her kids around, really trying to emphasize that, hey, these are Diana's grandchildren. We're going to her grave. You can't do that. But I have Diana's grandchildren. It's I don't know what she's thinking. It's not a particularly smart move. And here's why this is excessively dumb. Number one, to a lot of people, it just looks crass. For Harry and Meghan, especially, to whine and complain so much about the privacy of their children, the privacy of their lives, the ability of their children to go around without, being hounded by the paparazzi. Guess who's hounding them for pictures? It's their own mother. That's who is hounding them for pictures. Now, again, she is their mother. That is her right. But it's the hypocrisy of it. That's what this really, really, truly reveals, is a hypocrisy of the lie that they actually care about and value their children's privacy. They don't. Instead of making this a private moment about introducing their children to their grandmother, instead, Meghan has promoted it on the international stage for clicks and money and attention. And you cannot, by any stretch of the imagination anymore, you cannot. I mean, obviously we don't still, but Harry and Meghan cannot say that we all need to value their kids' privacy when they don't. They don't value their children's privacy. That is, to a certain extent, their right as parents, but they cannot get up on their high horse, their soapbox, whining about social media and the exploitation of children on social media when they're exploiting their kids on social media. You can't do that. You can't do that. You just can't. It's a hypocrisy of it. You cannot live a life of lies and hypocrisy and expect people to like you. I would have an immense amount of respect for Harry and Meghan if they never ever posted their kids on social media. If you live by what you preach, don't post your kids, because what they're doing is well. And obviously there's been some talk about the surrogacy things and everything like that. But what Harry and Meghan do is that they have to know that surrogacy debate exists. It really only exists in corners of the internet, not in, I would argue, any of the mainstream. So it exists over there. They know it exists. They have to know it exists. Like they know my channel exists. Know every channel that talks about them exists, because that's a good PR strategy. They know that exists. And instead of, I feel like, clarifying some of the questions regarding their children, I've never believed in the surrogacy thing. I'm sorry, I know some people do. I don't. But instead of trying to, let's say, offer some insight again or clarity, they obfuscate. And what they do is they actually perpetuate the ridiculous narratives of rent-a-kids, of fake kids, of all these sorts of things. They perpetuate it by playing these games. Meghan Markle makes the abuse of her children online worse by posting pictures like this. If you are a mother who cares, you would stop it to not engage in it. That's how you do it. That's the only way to make this work, is to not post your children. If you're going to stand by this, if you are going to protect your kids, knowing, again, this part of the internet and how your kids are talked about online, why do you offer them up on a silver platter to people to dissect even more? It's just so disgusting, I think, so disturbing and so inappropriate as a mother, I would say. She's perpetuating it. She's perpetuating all of it. And you can post pictures from your summer holiday, but you don't have to post pictures of your kids. Nobody's asking to see pictures of your kids. I don't care. But you're posting them, and then people get mad that other people post them because it's like, well, you're attracting attention to them, or you're attracting attention to the kids, or whatever. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. And so I don't I don't want anything, obviously, but I would have no sympathy if paparazzi pictures of the kids got out with their full faces. I would have no sympathy for Harry and Meghan in that instance, because they made their kids a bit more of a target. They made 100% their kids more of a target by how they posted about them, and questions over their genetics. Oh my gosh, how did 2 kids end up with red hair? Well, if Harry and Meghan both have the recessive gene, which is entirely possible, because Meghan, I mean, claims to be 43% Nigerian. I think she's more like 22%. But if she's 43%, if you dilute that in half, the kids are only like 22%. If Harry and Meghan both carry the recessive gene, and Meghan is is more white than she is black, ergo, she could have that gene. It's entirely possible. And she is very pale, just generally. So, like we all, not everybody, I don't usually go down that path too much. But of course, a lot of people talk about how much she bronzes herself up to look darker when she's in fact quite pale. And so I think it's perfectly possible for them to be their kids. But she likes to play games, and so people constantly question things. And of course, it's entirely possible, I did look this up, to sex select a child if you do IVF. I've always believed they do IVF. And sometimes people I've noticed been mixing up IVF and surrogacy. Guys, those are two very different things. They exist somewhat in the same ecosphere, very different situations though. So it is possible to choose to have a sex selected child, and you can kind of evaluate for some characteristics. So again, I don't think the kids are fake. I think they're real children. I think they're their children and all these sorts of things, but it's how she constantly is trying to manipulate and I think exploit them, and how she's again trying to kind of create this tension around them. And I'm like, You're worried about your kids. You're worried about your kids, and yet you're doing this. Why? Why are you doing this? This is just dumb. This is just dumb. You cannot complain ever about your children being attacked when you're fueling it. Again, I think people would do things either way. Again, I'm not a fan of going after the kids or anything like that. But the way she uses the kids, claims to want to protect them, and it's just so gross. I would say to Meghan, do better. Do better. If you're going to be a mom, do better than this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you're going to live by what you preach, if you want to protect your children, don't post about them. You have to know how people talk about your kids. Yet she doesn't seem to care, does she? She doesn't seem to care at all. And I don't post much at all about my personal life. I probably will never, because people twist things in the most ugly way sometimes, even the most innocent things. So how do you avoid that? You don't give them ammunition. That's how you avoid it. It's not perfect. And sometimes too, you need to be transparent and vulnerable with people. That's part of life. But you can't claim that people are too invasive, that the internet is too harsh or whatever when you're actively participating in the internet and offering your children up on a silver platter. You can't do both. You have to choose. But Meghan obviously loves this. She obviously craves this level of attention. And it's just so much. It's just so much negativity. And she's now, again, her kids will look back on this, and this is the time when they're supposed to go to their mother's grave or grandmother's grave, and now it's immortalized for the internet to see. So a private moment, which it will be their first memory of the grave, is now on the internet for everybody to dissect. I'll say, yeah, I found that. So Be Mad says, just wanted to point this out here because I have a little family caveat. Asks, is Lily whiter than Archie? So genetics are funny. I'm quite fair, and I have blonde hair and blue eyes. My sister was born with, I would say, fairly darker skin than me, and then brown hair and brown eyes. So genetics are funny, guys. Just because the kids are not going to turn out exactly the same. That's just pretty much how genetics works. So it depends on the family though, because some families, the kids all look like each other and all look very similar. And then in some families, like me and my sister, I look like my mom. My sister looks like my dad. If you got the two of us together, unless you knew we were sisters, you may be able to catch on, but we really just don't have that much. Even some of our facial shape might be similar, but we look very different. So one of those things about genetics, just pointing that out. Because again, I know so many people have so many like perspectives on the kids, and some of it I think is just kind of wild out of left field. But you just don't want to, I think, give these people more ammunition. I'm sorry, you just don't. And so Meghan would be so much better if she didn't talk about him. Just don't talk about him. Don't post about him. That's for private. That's for private, I would say. So that's, oh man, it was just, I just couldn't believe that. And again, William would never do that, and I would imagine William is quite incensed by that. Quite incensed. Okay. So next picture looks like it's Scotland. When I put this in Google search, it came up with Scotland. So, and then Archie and the pilots, I really don't care. And Meghan with one of her dogs. And there's somebody behind there. Well, actually, two people. And I was pointing, somebody pointed that out. And that person also seems to be maybe getting a picture as well. But that's Mia again, not Guy. Just to clarify, because a lot of people kind of get them confused. So that is the Instagram dump. And I can't see the exact details here. I can tell on Instagram. Let me see. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so it's been retweeted 4,643 times. So that's not bad because you can't comment on it, obviously. And so, yeah, that is where she's at. And it's not moving too much the follower count. I should look again, see what we can tell here. She's been at 407, 4.7 for a while, I think. And so we are at 4.7 and 31,000. So 4,731,000. It's really quite amazing that despite Meghan Markle's footprint, that she still can't grow all that much is still quite a shock. In some ways, her follower count should be much higher. And I think for Meghan, she thought her follower count would be so much higher. And it's just not. It's just not as high as she wants it to be. And it's slow moving. And I mean, part of the reason is she's not posting enough. But part of the reason is like the posts are bad. Like they're just bad posts. And I really do need to do a deep dive in how she totally changed. And I did do a little bit of change on my Royally Brittany Instagram as well. But when she started things here, guys, she would write a lot and say, as ever, Meghan. She did that. And then went from as ever Meghan to as ever M. And then as ever was officially gone. And then it never came back ever again. So I guess she was just waiting until she could like officially. I still think she should have maybe kept it or done some of it, but it's just not moving very well. And as ever is actually even worse. So we'll do a little bit of an as ever deep dive because I always find that somewhat interesting. But guys, let me go ahead. We do have some super chats that came in. Carol, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat saying this is only the beginning of monetizing Diana. Don't forget Harry and Meghan rumored the Diana 30th anniversary. The exploitation of Diana is so crass, vile, and more. Yes, I think it's entirely possible. Again, this will show that I think a Diana documentary is coming down the pike. It's literally, guys, the only thing they have left. The only thing Harry and Meghan have going for them is that they can do a Diana documentary. Meghan can write a memoir. And Harry maybe can write a memoir that is post kind of Mexit because he kind of glossed over Mexit, to be quite honest. So he could go back and do more of that. It's basically all they got. They don't have much else. They're not talented in what they're trying to do. And Meghan, it seems like she has forgotten as ever existed for the last couple of months, by the way. DS says, and for the $4.99 super chat, my heart breaks for Archie. Meghan is intentionally making him the spare to Lily with her feminism. She favors Lily. She does. It's just really, really sad and so incredibly obvious. Like how she talks about them, how she celebrated their birthday on Instagram. It's all there. Like we're not reading into anything than what Meghan is already putting out there. She has put out there endlessly, basically, that Lily is her favorite and she lives for Lily. And Lily's going to get everything. She's doing everything for Lily. She wants to leave as ever to Lily and all her businesses and everything to Lily because, screw Archie. He's a boy. He can make it on his own. That is Meghan's thought process. And I'm not exaggerating. That's basically it. She's basically admitted to that in interviews. Not totally that she's throwing Archie to the wolves, but that definitely everything she's doing is a legacy for Lily, not Archie, or not them as children, just Lily. It's just really sad, and you just gotta wonder how he's treated and, like, if he knows. Because again, this is what she's showing us, so imagine what's happening, like, at home. Like, again, and if she wasn't posting about her kids, we would know none of this. And if she was smart, she would make sure she's posting about them equally in equal measure, and she's not. That's hers. So Lou Bunsterlovin, thank you so much. I gave one Royal News Network membership, gifted one. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm sure someone in the chat will really appreciate it. And then we have My Tainted Innocence asking for £1.99. Why don't you believe the surrogacy rumors? So there's a couple of things. Number one, surrogacy would be exceptionally hard to pull off in the UK because of the laws surrounding it. So if you're not aware, you would actually have to go to family court and officially adopt the child, which would be just insanely difficult to keep all that hidden. And there's also that most of the evidence is just video interpretations. You know, Meghan squatting weird. A pregnant woman shouldn't be able to squat that way. Oh, there's some oddities here and there, but something being weird doesn't necessarily mean that it's nefarious or that it's surrogacy. Also, as well, Meghan gained a lot of weight and really struggled to lose it. Her face got extremely puffy. And I think some people have mentioned as well that her legs really swelled up or whatever. And it's like, or her legs didn't swell up, but her legs are so thin. How could you tell? Because her legs swelling up probably just made her legs look normal, to be honest, or just a relatively thin woman because her legs are incredibly spindly. And then when it comes to Lily, she again looked extremely pregnant and we didn't really see her much. And I mean, I've heard people say that in reaction to that, oh, well, then she must have taken lactation pills or steroids, or she must have just gained the weight to sell the surrogacy. So what I have found generally in life is that the more convoluted something has to get to make sense, the less likely it's true. Usually the simplest answer is usually the correct one. Now, that doesn't exclude surrogacy not surrogacy. That doesn't exclude IVF. That's a different thing. So the IVF is a different component. So that is something that I personally believe Harry and Meghan did. And there's nothing really wrong with that. But if you have to start going, well, she took lactation pills, they did this, they did that, and it starts to get more and more convoluted, it just doesn't make any sense. Like people mention what is it? The alleged hysterectomy. I don't believe that story. That hasn't really come from a reputable source. So I really try to go with what makes sense and what is logical. And without, let's say, having a paper trail or having strong evidence, like somebody on record or something, like a notable person on record or the mainstream media getting into it, I just don't see any validity to it. Also, nobody in the royal household has ever mentioned a whiff of surrogacy at all. And again, you would have to adopt the child. It would very, very much get kind of complicated, overly complicated, and you would not be able to hide all that. You just wouldn't be able to. So, yeah, that is my perspective. The simplest answer, guys, is usually always a correct one. It's usually always a correct one. It's not that hard, I don't think. But I understand why, though, it exists, because Meghan was so weird about her pregnancies that a lot of people were just like, what is she doing? Because she was constantly touching her bum. She was being unbelievably weird. But here's the funny thing about Meghan. She, guys, is so incredibly contrived as an actress. She wanted to show off her pregnancy so much that she overacted to the point that people thought she wasn't pregnant. And is that not a sign of a really bad actress? Is that she was trying to she was overacting it to such an extent that people doubted whether or not she was pregnant. And that would be so Meghan Markle. Mia says here she never looked pregnant with Lily. Oh, I would actually very much respectfully disagree if you haven't seen this still. And the thing people have to remember too, which I think they've forgotten, is that she was pregnant with Lily during COVID. So because of COVID, guys, it would just have been we didn't even see her much except for on their series, Harry and Meghan. Except for the interview with Oprah, we did not see them much. So it's really hard to gauge that based on the time. But guys, I don't think Meghan is anything other than pregnant there. That's pretty miserable. She like her face is so incredibly puffy. Her arms are incredibly like not incredibly. I should amend myself. But her arms are obviously much thicker because she's gained a lot of weight. So I think it's kind of hard to deny. So anyways, that was her with Lily. But we only saw her a couple of times because again, they weren't public facing at that point. We only saw that during the Harry and Meghan series. And she looked pretty pregnant. So I think arguing over that is not really all that productive in the overall debate over Harry and Meghan. I think it's more productive to talk about the things we can prove and the things that we can talk about and point out to people rather than conspiracies. That's always my perspective there. Yeah, Princess Goose said she looks pregnant there. With the color of the dress, you'd see the padding. Yeah, there ain't no hiding that. There ain't no hiding the misery of the face. She's very pregnant there. That's right before he was going to go off, I think, to Prince Philip's funeral. So that was very close to her due date. So anyways, that is my thought process there. I hope that helps. Fire Elemental, thank you so much for the super chat. Said Meghan can post whatever she wants, but she will never be more popular, only decreased, and sales will only decrease, and she can't undo the damage. Yeah, exactly. Somebody mentioned on X, and it was so good, I should have reposted it. Said, how are these pictures supposed to help you sell jam? That's a fantastic question. How are any of those pictures supposed to help Meghan with her business, which she seems to have forgotten about for like the whole summer? We've hardly had anything from Meghan during this summer. Like she did the rebrand and then just kind of like let it die, and that was it. And that's not good, especially if your business is not selling very well. Like the thing you need to do is work on selling it, figuring out what is working, what's not working. And she's just gallivanting off in Europe and taking a big vacation. Here's the thing about business, and I don't care who you are. I think this is true to anyone who is dedicated and focused on business. It is your life for the first couple of years. RNN, building up RNN has been my life for the last 4 years, probably to the detriment of certain things. Definitely my personal life. It has consumed so much because you're such in the process of building that you are able to, in a lot of ways, like you just have to focus on that. You can't really focus on anything else. And Meghan's like, I'm just going to take a 2-month vacation in Europe. I mean, you can do that, but your business will suffer because of it. Because you need to actually be like, especially if the business is not doing well. She's only barely a year and a half in, and it's not doing well. She needs to be in the factory, basically overseeing any production that's happening. Because right now, you're a make it or break it. Like I'm sure she's done some work, but she's just saying, "Oh, I'm just taking a summer holiday. That's great. I'm in the summer. It's great." Your business is failing. Your business is failing. Your Instagram numbers are falling again. And you're gallivanting in Europe and not helping your business grow. Especially because Meghan has become basically like she's just the face of the business and the whole business is about selling her. Then like how are you going to make that work? It's just not. Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for the super chat. Said the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs of South Korea plans to increase funding and pursue special legislation to fund the Invictus Games. Again, the Invictus Games, it's a great idea. But why do governments need to expend like $50+ million on it? Nobody goes. Nobody attends. Like nobody does. Only the family and friends. It's basically a talent show. And I understand that that's mentally healthy to the competitors and it's mentally great for them. But these things should be self-sustaining. They should not require massive infusions of government cash to run. You know, Taylor Swift, when she did the Eras Tour, she didn't have to really ask for anything from the governments. I mean, I'm sure there was some expended on police presence and those sorts of things, but through merchandise sales, ticket sales, all these sorts of things, she was basically able to fund the whole thing, all the stage work, all the stagecraft, all the workers. She was able to also give them a $100,000 bonus each. And Harry, with the Invictus Games, has to beg and plead and create legislation just to fund them because they can't figure out how to make this thing make money. This is the thing. Things need to make money. That's how the world goes around. That might seem kind of stark and like people don't want to think that way, but money requires things to fund, to run. That's why taxes are collected. Nobody likes taxes, but that's how the police get their money. That's how the schools get their money. That's how the road construction people who take care of our roads get money. I don't particularly like taxes, but I understand their function. Their function is to help make the rest of society smoother. If you have no taxes and nobody's taking care of the roads, of the rivers, making sure like search and rescue gets done. We live kind of close by a lake and people need to be rescued from it. Actually, usually people die where the lakes near me is one of those lakes where kind of just people tend to die at. Anyways, kind of sad, but like you need government money to fund those things. The Invictus Games is completely and utterly a talent show just for 500 people. And yet they need 500 plus million, or sorry, not 500, 50 plus $1 million to put it on. That doesn't work. Oh my goodness. Oh, Stephen Magnus, thank you again. So for another super chat, Birkenhead Archie went to her knees, crawled back. Maybe. But I think a lot of the videos, you can interpret them how you want, but it's just not really proof of anything, to be honest. All right, Diaz, thank you so much for the super chat saying maybe we'll see her overstock at TJ Maxx. Again, guys, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. She may do let's say a luxury thing. She may be able to write off the inventory by burning it. But I think she just needs to go slash earth and just slash the prices and sell. I don't understand why she's not doing that. It's crazy. But thank you so much, DS, as well for the super chat. And let's get over here real quick, guys, because I just happened to see this earlier today. So if we get over to As Ever's Instagram, which is the piddly little thing. It's very piddly. And I actually got a ad today for, believe it or not, the matcha blend. And I thought for a second, did she restock that? And I looked and I clicked on the link. And of course, it wasn't to that item. It was to something different. And I'm like, why are you running an ad on something you don't have in stock? Now, granted, each of these pieces you can get individually. You can get the flour sprinkles, the strawberry jam, and the matcha. You can still get those. You just have to buy them individually. But so it was basically kind of that picture a little bit. Not totally. It was different, though. It was just a cup, though, with that in it. But I'm like, why would you not at this point change up the ads? And we have some weird things. I mean, look at this, guys. How piddly is that? How pathetic is that? Like, that's pathetic, guys. I can't even tell what it is. She tells us what it is. I can't even tell it's strawberry. I can't tell. Berry season calls for fruit spreads, slow mornings, and something homemade. Why does she go with these inane sayings all the time? I do not understand. It's just the weirdest thing. And I'm trying to do my little Royally Brittany Instagram. And I'm on TikTok too. And guys, I would argue I'm not doing great at it so far. But I did kind of figure out something which I like to do, which is that if you follow it, and I guess I should maybe show you what I'm talking about since I'm talking about Meghan's thing. There we go. So here's my thing. But I go over and I share how I got these various pictures. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos so far. obviously, these are all pictures I've taken, like my selfie with Catherine, Victoria, and Estelle. We have Queen Mary, we have King Charles and Queen Camilla, we have King Frederick and Crown Prince Haakon, and then Prince George. So I'm not doing great, guys. I'm still figuring this out. But I just found something that was interesting, and I tried to do it as much as I can, and it's slow growing, and that's totally fine. I'm not expecting any sort of miracles here, guys. But I just find for somebody like Meghan, who has all the resources in the world, so many people to help her and everything, that this is the best she could come up with for like trying to even remotely advertise this. I'm like, that is not appetizing. And the other thing is, and I need to do this, guys, you'll have to excuse me. I've had some health challenges in the family and those sorts of things, but my goal is to actually have them in the freezer. I have these steaks in the freezer, and I have a recipe I'm going to make with strawberry spread and blue cheese gorgonzola steaks, and I'm going to create a strawberry glazed steak thing. I'll show it to you guys when I'm done. And that is interesting. Guys, how many times has she shown us her spreads with bread? Bread. Like, I get it, but you need to show us something else. Yes, we all know jam can go on bread. Like, we all get that. We all get that. When I go to hotels in Europe, I have like the I have status, so I get a free breakfast, and I see all the little jars of jam all over the place, you know? I'm like, "Okay." See all the jars. I'm like, "I'm good." And of course there's bread. So you put the spread on bread. But I would bet you guys dollars to donuts, like most of that stuff is sold in hotels. You need to give us other uses for it, Meghan. It can't just be something you put on a bread. Like, no. And then there was this bit of weirdness. A guide to seasonal produce, which I thought was just like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? So we got apricots, basil, cherries, tomatoes, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, peaches, mint. And so I'm like, what are we doing? That's just the weirdest thing. I'm like, okay. That was because it just doesn't seem to be. How is that matching this? Like, this just looks wildly out of left field. This is dark, horribly lit, not very like appetizing at all. And then you have this beyond unappetizing. Ugh, like, you got a lot of butter on there. The butter's not melted. Now you got spread on there. That just looks kind of gross. And the whole thing that was for that was for 4th of July, and it just goes red, white, and berries this weekend. A little sweetness for the long weekend. And you did weekend twice, which you shouldn't have done. It's so bad. Oh, man. And then we have obviously the lavender honey. Like, did we need more lavender honey? Oh, that's why she put the lavender, guys, in the Instagram lavender honey. That is why. That is why. Oh, it's just bad. I'm like, how are you going to sell this? And why did you introduce a new product? And then like this is just kind of weird looking, I feel like. Not appetizing. Her walking around like in the most staged way possible. And I know a lot of people have mentioned that looks like Diana's ring or something. Like, guys, that looks nothing like Diana's ring. Nothing at all like Diana's ring, I don't think. So, anyways. Looking at the camera, I still don't understand. I still don't understand why she's, like, constantly looking at the camera. Like, I should show you guys actually an interesting ad from Goop. Gosh, that's just oh, that's so bad. I just don't understand why Megan's sex appeal is going to sell things. I don't get it. Can show you guys let's see, is it here or is it on Gwyneth Paltrow's actual Might be on Gwyneth's actual personal page. Hold on. Ah, so this is on Gwyneth's personal page, and I do find this is actually not a bad ad, to be honest. So it's a bit weird that she's on her phone and she goes, "Want to shower with us? Next addition to your daily ritual coming soon, dropping soon from Goop Beauty," which is actually kind of funny, guys, because the towel is dropping. So you're actually kind of doing a little inside joke here, dropping soon, like the towel is dropping. Honestly, though, I don't think she looks, she's a bit too thin. So it's not like she doesn't look great from the backside, but I, I can honestly understand why this is actually a decent ad. She has this one too. I guess she's showing off this new body wash type thing. So I honestly think that's not a bad way. But it's just as ever, I don't think is going to do I don't think it's going to survive. It'll be interesting to see what she comes out with as we're getting closer to holiday season. How is it that time of year? Oh my gosh, guys. Oh my gosh. I'm not ready for it to be the holiday season yet. And I have a very busy fall. I have at least 2 trips in the fall. Um, so and the other thing I should mention here, which I didn't mention earlier, which is bad on me. But one of the things this Instagram dump by Meghan Markle has proven beyond really a shadow of any and all doubt is that she and Harry and the kids can move around relatively freely without harassment, without anybody catching on. They can move around, go to different places, have fun. So, what this kind of sort of proves, I would argue, is that Meghan and Harry and the kids, that the all the security conundrum, the security paranoia, the security hysteria is just that. It's hysteria. It's not based in reality. They are perfectly fine to move around. They are perfectly safe. There just doesn't seem to be anything wrong. I don't see any issues. I don't see anybody stalking them, harassing them. Nobody even saw them. So how it is in the world are we supposed to think now that there's some huge conspiracy against Harry and Meghan and they're so incredibly sought after and everything that people would stalk them? It proves that they can get into the UK, go around, maybe go all the way up to Scotland and back, and no one saw them. It's all lies. It's all lies. And I feel like that's really, really important to point out is that despite what Harry and Meghan say, despite the security, as Ritz says, security, they don't really need what they think they do. And that anytime they moan and complain of like, oh my gosh, like we can't go to X, Y, and Z places. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. It's a lie. They were able to get around perfectly fine. Guess what? If you don't publicize yourself, sometimes people don't know you're there. Oh, who'd have thunk it? And it also goes to show that Harry and Meghan promote things sometimes because they want the attention. And you can't claim to be worried about your security when you're so desperate for attention that you volunteer your location. Guys, why do you think when I'm traveling, I'm pretty I should post more than I do sometimes. And I'm actually pretty careful about what I post, in part because I don't want people, even if I trust everyone, pointing out exactly where I am. So I won't show you what my hotel room number is or anything like that, or show you what hotel room I'm staying in or show what hotel. And the reason is simply for my own freaking security because I'm not dumb. I want to be safe. And to be safe, there are just very easy decisions you can make to facilitate that. And the easiest way is to not advertise where you're at. If you are at an event, like hopefully I'll get to cover the Danish state visit to Belgium, you'll kind of know where I'm at because obviously some of that is publicized. But you won't know where I'm at all the time. I won't always tell you where I'm at. I usually try to post something after I've been at a location just for security reasons because I'm a woman traveling alone. It's just an obvious thing because you never know who's watching on social media. So even if I trust a lot of people, you have to be careful and not, let's say, just blast things out. And so I think Meghan and Harry, by doing all this, again, have disproven their own case of security hysteria. I think anytime they moan and whine about security, they should just be told no. No, you advertised where you were at. You were perfectly fine. Nobody bothered you at all. Nobody even knew you were there. Nobody saw you. So why in the world are we tiptoeing around you as if like a nuclear bomb will go off or something? Like this is just ridiculous and insane. And so I really do think it was good of Harry and Meghan in a lot of ways to I think argue against themselves. I think this is good because we have heard, of course, if you missed my video yesterday, that basically the Home Office is backlogged with trying to even evaluate, give Harry another security assessment because they have so many prime ministers, ex-prime ministers, and other cabinet ministers to protect now. They don't even have enough energy to try to figure out and do an assessment for Harry. And I think in this case, Harry should just be told no. Just tell him no. No, you came to the UK just a couple months ago. You made a hysteria about it before you visited. You volunteered where you were going to be before you visited because you wanted people to show up and see you and be part of it to alert the press. And then you whined and complained about certain things. If you're going to advertise it, then just tell them no. No, you don't need to advertise it. You're a private citizen. Just go about your business. Just go about your business. But no, Harry and Meghan want the attention. They want the publicity and they don't want to pay the money for security. That's what this is a lot about is money, really. And that's what I think this whole trip showed is that it's all about money. They just don't want to pay. They just don't want to pay for their security. And I don't think anybody else should have to. Yes, I understand how sometimes there are risks in life, but that's kind of life. There are risks. So that is what we got today. So I will just touch on this real quick here. I don't know where the articles are, so maybe I'll find them on X real quick, but we'll go rather quickly. When it comes to the Belgian royals, we do have news that Princess Elizabeth is actually more popular than her parents. She has a 7.9 approval rating. Her mom has, I think, a 7.8, and her dad maybe a 6.9. So she's getting up there, and a lot of people want her to take over the throne in 2030 and want her father to abdicate then. So it has been basically officially confirmed in Belgium that abdication is going to be the process going forward. Philip will abdicate in place of his daughter. And so that's like very exciting. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And if you guys haven't watched my video on Royal Fashion News about Princess Delphine, you may enjoy it. So guys, feel free to check that out. That is all though I have for right now. We'll get to a couple of questions here at the end. I realized we started a bit late. Again, I thought they were going to replace my windows. That seemed to be what they were going to do. And then I was like, some guys like, I just want paper towels and then I'm going to leave. And I'm like, you're leaving. I scheduled my thing at 4 because I thought you guys were going to be in here and you're gone. So hold on just 1 second. All right. MTAA66 says, all these released pictures is proof that she and her children were in Europe because some people were saying it's fake and to debunk No Children campaign in the UK. Yeah, I do think it was good of her because some people doubted it. I never did because I thought, yeah, of course, but it was also to prove, hey, we were in the UK. Rit says, Princess Elizabeth is very well educated, mature queen in waiting. Love her. Yes, she is. She's lovely. She's lovely. LLM 8686 says, if you don't like, don't watch. Very true. Cece says the pink ensemble. Clifford says, why is abdicating exciting? That is strange. So I am excited for abdication because when it comes to monarchies, I think it's the future, to be honest. I think most of the European monarchies will adopt abdication in the future. And I find that to be a good system. What I have seen, especially in the UK, I was actually talking about this with my mom last night. Charles just feels very, very old. He feels older than King Carl Gustaf, and Carl Gustaf is a couple of years older than him. Carl Gustaf seems younger. Harold, even though he has a lot of mobility issues, in some ways seems younger than Charles. Charles seems like he's from a very separate generation. And in some ways he is. But I think part of the problem with Charles and his reign, and obviously I think some of the challenges that will come up with it, come with it, is that I think just Charles ascended to the throne too late. He should have probably gotten there a little bit earlier. And obviously Queen Elizabeth lived a long and healthy life, which is amazing. But at the same time, I think it resulted in unforeseen problems. Like anything in life, it's a blessing, and yet it can also be a bit of a challenge as well. And I think that's sort of kind of where we're at, is a challenge, because, well, I really do think Queen Elizabeth was an excellent queen. At the same time, her really, really long reign, I think, resulted in a situation where I don't think Charles was in a position to kind of advance the throne and advance the situation well enough. And so I think he's kind of stuck in his ways, and I don't think that's particularly working in this modern era. I think William would be a better king right now, to be honest. And so, but in reflection, the monarchies in Europe that do have a voluntary abdication process, I feel like they get refreshed and renewed. So the monarch is still there, but they're retired. They can chill out and do what they want. They can focus on their health. If their health is bad, Queen Marguerite, that's why she abdicated. Her health wasn't great. And so I think in the future, I think more of them will adopt that, because I think the ones who have abdicated was like, this retirement thing, it ain't bad. Some abdications had to be done for sake of scandal, most notably Juan Carlos of Spain. And that really helped the Spanish monarchy. I don't know if the Spanish monarchy would have survived if Juan Carlos was on the throne. He might actually be in jail if he was still king or something. So I think abdication is actually the way to go. I think it refreshes the monarchy. I think it keeps it more engaged, and you can have the wisdom of the older generation. The ascension process doesn't have to be within a period of mourning. I just think I like it better. I just like it better personally. Jam 2001 says a couple of alcoholics drinking because it's the only way to stand being around each other. The wine glass is always present. To be fair, like, people do like wine, so I won't criticize that too much. And I did miss a couple of super chats. We have Desert Mermaid, who gave $9.99, says, do you think Meghan secretly resents men because she relied on them? Take that as you will to get ahead. Maybe it's reflected in her treatment of Archie. That could definitely very much be the case. I do think that she kind of resents men in a lot of ways. I think in some ways, hardcore feminists do resent men. They resent men for, let's say, doing better in their careers, or doing better in particular situations, and not taking into account that women are better at certain things than men are. And that maybe in life you just chose wrongly. I mean, maybe Meghan too is like, it's a reflection of her relationship on her dad. That could be true as well. But I don't think she likes Harry all that much. I don't think she respects him in the slightest. And I think that's reflected in their relationship quite a bit, and her relationship with Archie. If she doesn't respect her husband, how is she going to respect and love and raise her son in some ways, if that makes sense? All right, Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for the super chat as well. £5 here. 21st of July, Archwell Philanthropies trademark has been granted notice of allowance from the U.S. What is it called? Patent and Trademark Office. Now they only have 36 months to get approval. I'm surprised. It'll be interested to see if they continue Archwell Philanthropies, because it's not even a website anymore. It's literally a landing page that just gives their mission statement, and that's it. They've kind of given up on a lot of things, because Archwell Foundation had its own website, had its own articles. Now it's all held under Harry and Meghan, and it just reflects things aren't going well. They really are not. Not for the couple, that's for sure. Angela Dawn said, I'm sure most Belgium want Elizabeth to kick Delphine to the curb. Yeah, I think so. It was interesting to watch some people defend her. And I'm like, did you see the dress? There ain't nothing defending that. And so Delphine, she wore this Pepto-Bismol, dark Pepto-Bismol pink dress that was a mullet dress. So it was really short in the back, longer in the front to cover her modesty as she was sitting. And apparently she wanted to make it shorter. And it was the most hideous thing I've ever seen. And it's very, I have a whole fashion video on it, Royal Fashion News. And I talked about how basically it's a cry for attention and help, because she is the illegitimate daughter and the former king. So she's a half sister to the current king. And they only invite her to this occasion and the family memorial service that they hold every February. I just think they should kick her out of National Day because she's there just to make a spectacle of herself and get attention because she doesn't feel like the royals are giving her attention. And it's like it's you can obviously see the childishness of it in the literally childish ensemble. Low Rider Landon says she would make more money and get more clicks if she took the kids to see her dad. Maybe, maybe. Parliament says there's no proof that any of the pics with family connect to Portugal. I mean, it seems like most of them are from Portugal, but Stacey says, yeah, she posted that menu to prove it. And Fire Elemental says, I could take a pic from the internet anywhere is Rome and say it was Rome. I mean, I don't think there's a reason to doubt it. So I just think it's Portugal. Sharon says, pink dress, LOL. DeLovely says, why does she need to debunk whether she was in the UK? Because some people think she did not go. I was not in that camp. I thought she went. So Pepper and Nutmeg's mom says, I think William will start abdicating thing in the UK. I think he will too. I think he will do voluntary abdication. I think that'll be the honestly, I think it is better. I just from the monarchies I've seen where it's been implemented, it's really just reinvigorated things. And this is not to be rude, but younger people, and it's not even like King Frederick's in his 50s, you know, he's not like young. But if you're a bit younger, you're kind of more malleable to the advent of new technology and everything. And, you know, Harold and Sonia are 89 this year. And so, I mean, Norway's pretty good. But there's some monarchies where I think, especially the UK, it's just really hard. Charles just seems like he's from the Edwardian era, which in some ways is not necessarily bad, but he's also a bit behind the times. Ritz says, I'd love to see King Grump abdicate so Victoria can step in already. I would like that too. I think Sweden could do with a little bit of abdication, but I just don't think he will. I mean, he's been king for over 50 years, so it'd be nice if he did. Because Victoria is lovely. I can't wait to see Victoria as queen and Estelle as crown princess. Princess Goose says, I hope Charles can last another 10 years. I want George to go to university if he wants to. Like, either way, he'll go to university because obviously Crown Prince Christian went to university. Princess Amalia did. Princess Leonor. But I think overall it'll just be interesting because William had such a weird younger years compared to his contemporaries. I mean, he is a good 10 years older than his contemporaries, but William's actually kind of in a gap because he's like about 10 years, well, not 10 years, but like 8 years younger than Crown Princess Victoria. Well, she's 49 this year and William's 44, like 5 years. So that doesn't seem that different, but it just does in a way. But most of the other royal families have gotten their children involved quite a bit younger than Catherine and William are. Like William especially had a very, 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 very slow walk into royal duties. I just don't think his son can have the same opportunity because I think William will be king by that point. And so it just changes the dynamics. And I'm just curious how Catherine and William will approach that. Because I think they need to get George involved a bit earlier. And I definitely don't think Charlotte or Louis will be private citizens. I think they'll both be working royals. I don't think they have enough for them not to be working royals. Bradley's USA says Meghan's photos are stuck in Instagram Kirka 2016, overly curated. That's why reels and messy videos are popular. People are so over that nowadays. So true. Bobby Australia says, I remember watching Albert II of Belgium's abdication in 2013, and it's nothing like the UK's coronation. It's semi-formal, official, and quick, with the point made to open and include the public. Yeah, I'm very curious. Again, William says he will take up the mantle as head of the Church of England. I just really don't think he should. I think that's just, I just don't think, if William is not somebody, and we've heard this for many years, doesn't go to church every week and these sorts of things, if he's not really all that invested in the faith, I don't see why he would need to be head of the Church of England. I think that's the aspect of the monarchy William should change is to pass that mantle over back to the Church of England. And if they don't have to have a coronation and can just have inauguration, I think that's fine. Because now, again, it was cool to see like them have the coronation, but the disappointment is that nobody was in crowns. We got no crowns basically except for Charles. Catherine was even basically wearing a tiara, but not wearing a tiara. It was dumb. And at least in the other monarchies, we get freaking tiaras. So Carol said the Belgian royal family looked amazing. Princess Delphine looked atrocious. She's a joke. She's a joke. Farrell Menta says, are the kids in the pics? She's also great at photoshopping. Oh yeah, I think so. She's not great at photoshopping, so I don't think she gets accused of photoshopping much more than she should, I think. Kat Shank says Harry is a low character. He should have insisted on meeting him in reconciliation. And said Harold is much older than Charles. He does, but Harold in some ways feels younger. We also have MCF here, who says Charles should have been laying the groundwork for what he should have been doing. He saw major issues before he became king, and they should have been addressed. I agree. It's inexcusable that they didn't deal with Andrew earlier. Brenda says, does anyone know if Eugenie had her baby yet? Not that I've heard. Sir Squirrel a lot says, but if you have old monarch hanging around causing drama, ask Spain about Juan Carlos. Yes, but Juan Carlos is the exception, not the rule. In most other cases, the monarch goes very gracefully into retirement that we've seen so far. Chickadee says, do European monarchs abdicate based on age or length of reign? It's just a voluntary thing. Like, it's a very well-established tradition in the Netherlands and in Luxembourg, but it was a unique thing to Belgium. But the Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Belgium all share very close family ties. So Belgium going in that direction is not a surprise. Queen Marguerite abdicating was a very big surprise because nobody thought she would do that. But it makes sense because as she gets older, she's fallen. She's had various health issues. She had an infection in her hip from, I think, a hip replacement or something. And so she's had various medical issues. And I understand that, of course, you can have a regent who is taking over some of those duties. But why not have a monarch there already who can just do it rather than having to constantly switch over regency all the time for health issues? And it allows the monarch to not have to, like, for Marguerite, she doesn't have to do state events anymore. She doesn't have to do state visits. So she can just sit on her tush at home and watch television if she wants to, or she can work on her art projects, which she loves. And so she doesn't have to deal with those rigors of the office. Because, see, that's the thing, is there are rigors that come with being monarch. You have to do state events and state functions that require standing and doing all these things that are part of that core diplomatic obligation of a royal. And once you get to a certain age, that becomes harder and harder. And I think it's nice for, gracefully go off into the sunset and go, here you go, Frederick. Because with the Spanish state visit to Denmark, Marguerite, for the reception line, she was sitting down because it was hard for her to stand. And not that she couldn't do it and not that she didn't want to, but I think it just comes to a point where it's like, physically, it's just difficult. That's why I wish Harold would abdicate, because his mobility is so bad anymore, guys. Watching him get off the royal yacht, the Norge, I'm surprised he's still staying on it. He can barely get on and off that thing. And I just think I respect the fact that he wants to see his office to the conclusion. But I think in this modern era, with the longevity of life, I think it would be better if he abdicated. Because the thing why abdication wasn't done before, really, is because people died young. So you can have somebody perfectly healthy, they fall off their horse, die a couple days later from infection, or they get a cut and they get infected and they die. They get tuberculosis, they get the smallpox. People, even healthy people, could go downhill very suddenly and die. And most people, yes, you could still live to 80, 90, 100 years old, but it was exceedingly unlikely. But with the modern era and modern technology, people are living well into their 90s, well into their 80s. And some people might have naturally anyways, but some people, it is medical intervention. And so the length of life has been extended to such an extent that I think for some people, I think it's just better for them when you're kind of getting over that 80 decade, like if you're hitting about 80, maybe it's time to take a couple steps back and go, I'm good. I just want to sit in my chair, do a couple things per year, get the accolades, and just, that's it. And I respect it. I respect it immensely. I think it's the smart thing to do. So I think it all comes down to personal preference. I think that's how it should be. I think it should be understood that at some point that once I think Wilhelm Alexander and Maxima have said when Amalia is ready and they feel like she's ready, and probably once she gets married and has a family and is established and comfortable, then they'll probably talk about the process of transferring over power. And again, I think it is a good thing. And all the monarchies I've seen it implemented, it has been a very good thing. You have then youth, which can attract the young. Part of Charles's problem in some ways is he can't, I think, connect with the young quite as well as the younger monarchs can, because he's quite a bit older and he's had the cancer to deal with. And that's just so unfortunate. But that's just, again, very much my thought process there. All right, to DS gave a super chat. Thank you so much, saying respectfully disagree. Prince William needs to protect the Christian faith, unlike what King Charles just did by protecting the faiths. Catherine's illness gave him faith. So again, we've heard for many years, and I have not really heard anything to the contrary, that neither William or Catherine are dedicated churchgoers. And so if you're not a dedicated churchgoer, if church and faith is not at the center of your life, I don't think it is a good idea from a standpoint of understanding the faith and understanding if you take on the mantle of being head of the Church of England. And again, this is probably above my pay grade, but you will be judged at the end of your life by God for taking on his flock and whether or not you did what you were supposed to. And the same goes for Charles as well. I don't think Charles is particularly good head of the Church of England, because I think Charles is a universalist. I think Charles thinks that all faiths offer a route to salvation, basically. And if you are Christian and head of the Church of England, I don't think that should be your perspective. And I think Charles' fundamental flaw is wanting everybody to be happy, and then nobody is. And it's kind of that, again, universalist perspective of every route leads to faith and to salvation. And there is echoes of God, I think, in a lot of areas of the world that sometimes people don't think about. But when it comes to Christian faith, it's like very clear. It's salvation through Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. If you do not ask his forgiveness and ask for him to come into your heart and have Christ change your life, then you are not a Christian. The route is narrow. The Bible is very explicit about that. So I don't think you can argue by any stretch of the imagination that all roads lead to Rome in the case of Christianity. That's just not the case. But I do think that's Charles's perspective. William, I would guess, is a bit more agnostic. That would be my leaning there. Stephen Magnus, thank you so much for the super chat. Said Joe Marler has cut Harry's poo cast from podcast. Did he really? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. That's really funny. Oh man, Harry just does not have good sense, man. He just does not. But thank you so much, Stephen. Do appreciate that little update. And we have DS as well saying, yes, I agree. I also believe Prince William wanted to abdicate and watch his son in action. No kid wants to wait for their parent to die before becoming crowned. Yeah, I think it's a antiquated system. With the advent of modern technology, I actually think for monarchies to survive, they do need to adapt. And this is, I think, a pretty easy adaptation they can make. It hasn't cost anything. The Dutch monarchy is still going strong, and this started over 100 years ago. So we have Rit says, I agree Charles should have been king much earlier. Queen Elizabeth was amazing, but ruled too long. Yeah, because one of the things, and I've talked about this before, is that because Queen Elizabeth reigned for so long and there was such a reverence for her, that it kind of sort of let the rot set in. People kind of got stuck in a rut. They didn't address certain things, or they didn't talk to the queen about Andrew because they didn't want to upset her and they didn't want to talk to her about certain things. And so because of that, you're not getting issues addressed, and there's not maybe an energy to address issues. And so I think everybody gets stuck in a rut, and the Brits are still stuck in a rut. Catherine and William are slowly doing things a bit differently, but I honestly think them in some ways, they've been stunted by not, getting more engaged with royal duties earlier. They got also a very, very long walk into full-time royal duties, which in some ways, yes, I can see is beneficial. But at the same time, too, it just kind of led to a complacency with everyone. That's what I think the big problem with the Brits is complacency. They just think everything's going to be fine. People have loved us for so long. We've reigned for so long. We don't really have to try. And I think there's a danger there. Chris says Meghan is a disgusting yacht girl. So I actually don't believe that. That's the only reason I clicked on it, to be quite honest. I don't subscribe to the yacht theory, just like I don't subscribe to the surrogacy theory. And part of the reason why as well, when it comes to surrogacy and yacht girl and everything, it's sort of a way to dehumanize Meghan and kind of say the worst and most ugly things about her. So I would, just from a perspective of she is a human being, I would just caution before going too far. Because some of what I see about Meghan is, not saying that you're doing that, but just saying overall, some of it is vile. DeLovely says Charles' monarchy has been Meghan's reign. In fact, you could say there's some truth there. Miss Chloe Celeste says there are no pictures of her in the UK. I don't believe she was ever there. She's in Portugal. I think she's banned from the palace. I don't really think so, but that is actually an interesting thought process. That maybe, just maybe, because obviously there's been rumors that her and Harry are separated. She's not really wearing her engagement ring. Maybe she didn't go. But I do think, based on the palace's official statement, that she did. CT Hiker says Charles seems to really enjoy being king. Hey, it's great to be king. Francisco says, I don't think that Eugenie had her baby yet unless she hasn't announced it yet. I don't think so. And we haven't seen her in a while. Carol says, I do wonder if Queen Elizabeth stayed too long on the throne due to her fearing Charles's decision. I really don't think Charles had anything to do with it. It was the trauma of King Edward VIII's abdication. And again, this is the thing. Elizabeth in some ways is also a holdover from the Edwardian era. She was obviously heavily influenced by Queen Mary. And so she kind of held on to some of the old practices as well. So there was no chance she was going to abdicate, but it would have been better. And I don't think Charles really had anything to do with it. I think she thought this is how we do it. And that's it. Coastal Angel says, I have 6 sisters from a darker skinned Black mother and a lighter skinned father. All of us are different. I'm very light skinned with hazel eyes. All my other sisters have dark skin, dark brown eyes. Yeah. Genetics are a funny thing, man, because it always amazes me. The always example I look at are the Olsen twins and Elizabeth Olsen. They look really, really similar, stunningly similar. And I mean, obviously you can see a bit of difference. I don't think Mary Kate has aged particularly well. She looks very gaunt and withdrawn, but like the huge eyes, definitely Ashley and Elizabeth both very much have in common. Brett Lamenta says, I don't believe anything Meghan puts out. Been watching this show for a while now, and I know how she works. She knows how to put on a con. She isn't. The hard thing with Meghan and with everything surrounding Meghan is that there's so much misinformation that people can't even agree on what's true anymore in some ways. And so that's been, I think, part of the challenge. Christine says that Meghan is lazy. I agree. Riley says Meg is super flirty with men. It's just her MO. That is true. That is true. Rich says Juan Carlos is a lucky sucker since the Sheikh of Abu Dhabi is looking after him. Very true. Very true. And there's some people in Spain who still really, really like Juan Carlos and really dislike Letizia because they think she is too modern. Brendy says 2K in the chat. Hit like button, Brittany. It's awesome. Show some love. Why, thank you. Kat Ching says Meghan doesn't seem to like anyone. There's some truth there too, probably. Pepper and Nutmeg's mom says, I have a feeling we'll start abdication in the UK. I think so. Clifford says King Charles III is being treated for cancer. He's not too old, nor does he feel old. The king was the heir, and Queen Elizabeth did not make the decisions without consulting Prince Philip, Prince Charles, Prince Edward, Prince William. I don't think that's true. I don't think she overly relied on Charles and William for most of her. I mean, I think she relied on Philip quite a bit, but I think less so Charles and definitely less so Edward and William. But even if he is being treated for cancer, he just feels old. He just feels really old. I'm sorry. He just does. He just seems like he is from a completely different time period than the one we're in now. Antonia says a cheap vulgarity. Yeah, Claire says, "What do you think of Meghan biting back at nearly every rumor about her, but she won't touch the surrogacy rumors? I don't believe the surrogacy rumors, but her behavior is weird." So this is kind of my thought process is that when it comes to surrogacy stuff, she just thinks it's dumb and sees no reason to engage with it. I think that's why. There's just some things there's just it's just not worth engaging in. And she always tries to set the record straight, but she has zero desire to engage with that because she's like, it's just stupid. So I'm just gonna leave it alone. That's my personal theory. Too old to care says, sorry, Brittany. I just don't think King Charles is doing a good job as king. I mean, I somewhat agree with her. Somewhat agree with that. Miss Chloe Celeste says 9 photos, yet none of her in the UK. Again, that is very true and one I did not consider. Harbor Max says she has no original idea. She has row copy people. Yes, I agree with that. Fire Elemental says, because I love my hubby so much, I stopped all flirting with men when we married. That is good. That is good. Ritz says, disrespect from the narcs is truly disgusting. I can smell it from them from miles away and don't play their games. Clifford says, 475 likes and 1,200 watching. Please click the like button. Why, thank you. Commentator says, hi, Brittany. What are your thoughts on Charles Spencer's feelings towards Harry and Meghan? Do you think he has misgivings or is he completely supportive of them? That's an interesting question and one I forgot to answer. So thank you so much, commentator, for reminding me. So when it comes to Charles, I haven't investigated him deeply. So I'll be honest there, just as a caveat off front. He has been married, though, 4 times. And my understanding is that he cheated on every wife. And the wife number 3 was the woman he cheated on with wife number 2, and wife number 4 is who he cheated on allegedly with wife number 3. I should say some of this allegedly. So he doesn't have the greatest, I would argue, track record. And that's not to say that obviously some people have married several people and gone through divorces and stuff like that, but he just seems slimy to me, to be honest. There's just something slimy about him. And I will also say as well, I was critical of him about something. Did not even tag him so that like nobody would harass him. My point was not to harass him, was just to state my opinion on something. And he blocked me on X. And I'm like, dude, I have not even talked to you. I didn't even tag you. Are you that like sensitive? Really? And so I just don't like him. And obviously there's a report as well of kind of before Diana's death. At one point she asked for refuge from Charles Spencer and he said no. He said no. And he has, of course, fully monetized off her death by offering tours of Althorpe and those sorts of things. They can't go to the island, but he is definitely, and as some of this is you have to do, I would argue, for like to upkeep homes of his size are very, very difficult. He also seems to have no relationship with his older children, maybe except for his son, but his 3 daughters, so Eliza, Amelia, and Kitty, are all estranged from him. He did not attend any of their weddings. Kind of understood Kitty because she was marrying a guy in like Charles's age or older. He was like in his 60s or 70s. And so that's who she married. And so I kind of understand that, but Charles and Harry could be birds of a feather who flap together, who somehow have alienated good chunks of their family, who should be their nearest and dearest. They've alienated them. And so they can kind of commiserate in their alienation and basically support their alienation, which from their family, which I don't think is particularly healthy or good, I guess you could say. So when it comes to Charles, I just don't see him being the quote unquote protector of Diana's legacy like people think he is. I really don't think he is. I really, really don't think he is. I think if he can screw over the royals and make money off of it at the same time, I think he will. And that's just my very, very personal opinion. I just don't have a high view of him at all. He seems to, again, just seems to exploit certain things. And I think he was okay with the picture. I don't think he had any issues with it whatsoever. And obviously as well, he's like, Harry, yeah, you don't have a relationship with your family. Those awful Windsors, I agree with you. Like that would be, I think, what he would say. But that's just my personal opinion. For what it's worth. Miss Chloe Celeste says that William and Harry had an agreement not to monetize their mother. Exactly, and Harry has broken it numerous times. Kat Chang says a malignant and antisocial equal Rachel Meghan. Bobby Australia says Delphine, that is neon pink monstrosity. Oof. Yeah, that was bad. Randomness says, how much will Harry inherit when Charles dies? So that's an interesting question, kind of difficult to answer. So when it comes to Charles, and I would imagine, guys, strongly the Queen as well, most of his money will be left to William. And the reason is William doesn't have to pay inheritance taxes on it. That's one of the benefits of passing things from monarch to monarch. So I think most of Charles's stuff will be left to William. And obviously, Highgrove House is owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. So when Charles dies, obviously he has used Highgrove House, so they may keep it, but then it'll go to George. It'll belong to George technically through the Duchy of Cornwall. And so whether or not George decides to do something with it, maybe George loves it. That would be awesome. Or maybe Charlotte wants to live there. That's entirely possible as well. But when it comes to Harry, I just don't think he'll get that much. Like, I think the Queen left some personal effects to the various grandchildren, but if Harry's expecting like a huge payout from his dad, number one, his dad does not have that much money to give. Like, so much of the money of the royal family, people think they're so wealthy. They're really not. They are, yes, better off than most of us. But Charles has to pay for the Edinburghs, his sister, like other things, staff members, his wife. And so like the idea that he has so much money floating out there to toss at various people is a little insane. He just doesn't. So Harry, whatever he would get would, I think, be more tangible items. And if he got anything monetarily, it would be very modest, if not nothing at all. Because William now has to support the whole of the monarchy. So best to give William as much financial resources as possible to continue to do that, rather than like giving half of it to Harry. That would be insane. But I don't know. Charles doesn't think really well sometimes. Lynn Gideon says Harry owes the men in great suits so much. They made him look good and gave him true purpose before Meghan came along. Yes, and Desert Mermaid says, I really struggled to type correctly at 74. Wasn't raised with all this technology. Apologize in advance. No worries. Kat Shank says, Delphine is resentful. Yes. Why, yes, she is. She's very resentful. And she cannot hide it. Do you guys hear Pippa? I was just curious if you guys hear Pippa. She's like, woof, woof, woof. She heard her doggy aunts and uncles, and they started woofing, and she needed to woof too. She needed to woof, woof. She loves barking with them. The only problem, guys, is that they all start barking together, and it's just like a cacophony of sound. It's very, very obnoxious. So, my goodness, guys, we have so many questions. I'm going to prioritize questions a little bit here because we have so many. Usually we don't have this many. All right. Catching says, does George even want to be king? I mean, that's an excellent question, but I think one of the cool things about royals and what I've seen with other royals, especially the young ladies, is that as you grow into the role, I think you grow in greater reverence and respect. And in some cases, like I particularly think of Leonor. Leonor had to do this whole military training thing because as queen, she will be head of the armed forces. And so she had to do Navy, Air Force, Army. I feel like I'm missing 4. Anyways, Navy, Air Force, Army. And I don't think she probably wanted to do that. But you know what? I think sometimes there's a goodness in life in being forced to do things you wouldn't normally do or normally wouldn't want to do, because I think it offers you an opportunity to grow. I think it's a growth opportunity. So even if, let's say, George doesn't even want to be king, I think there's some growth in accepting that this is not, let's say, necessarily what I want out of my life, but I have been given this and I'm going to steward it to the best of my ability. And even if this is hard to kind of to work through, I think the process of doing that is actually good for the soul in some ways. I think it's good to do things sometimes you don't necessarily want to do or don't think you want to do or whatever, because it pushes you outside your boundaries and allows you to grow. So, oh my gosh, guys, we have a guest. Hello. Do you want to stay with me for the rest of the time? Okay, we got 12 minutes here. Can you stay with me? Oh, were you barking with Rileykin? Were you two of you barking? All right. Princess Goose said, can he be Prince of Wales and go to university? How would that work? Maybe Edward can hope. Oh, he can 100% go to university as a Prince of Wales. William did it. And he wasn't Prince of Wales, but he was the future Prince of Wales. So he can definitely do it. The other royals have gone to college as well. It would just there would be scrutiny. And the press has really done a good job, I think, of figuring out where the boundaries are and leaving the kids alone to the best of their ability. Are you okay? Can you see them? They're over there. Do you see them? Oh, yeah. Your little leg twitching. Guys, I have to say I love it when her little leg twitches. It's just the best. I don't know why it is. I don't know why it is, but she's the cutest. Okay. All right. So Tam says, Meghan is a narcissist. The minute Lily has her own opinions versus what Meghan says, Lily's life will become hell. Very, very true. Okay, you want to get down. All right, all right. She's probably telling me, Mommy, it's dinner time. Just got to wait 10 minutes. I gave you a bone earlier. You should be good. All right. Hot Mess Express says Catherine did get attention for the hairpiece she wore. So if that's from last year, she didn't wear a hairpiece. It was just like really humid and her hair just, which she says her hair does. Rit says, I think at some point Andrew will end up bunking in a palace next door to Juan Carlos so they can hang out while they both get fawned over. What a life, huh? That is funny. I can see that. I can see that. Mafia wife says, I agree. This is something Ruby Frankie would do. So evil. Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily evil, but it's definitely twisted. And yeah, it's very much like what Ruby Frankie did. Oh, let me capture the kids going to their grandma's grave site who died again. Just want to emphasize, died in part due to a paparazzi chase with a drunk driver. Never forget, driver was drunk. Wear your seatbelt, everybody. It does save lives. But the last thing she saw were flashes of cameras. And what does her daughter-in-law do? Follow around her grandchildren with a camera. Now, of course, Diana would love to get pictures of her grandchildren. She would love that. Of course she would. But it's just making it public is the problem. Don't make it public. Britt says, Max and Alex have been on the throne for 13 years now, and you can see that Beatrix is getting more frail each day. I hope she is still able to enjoy herself. Yes, and for Beatrix as well, one of her sons died. So she had 3 sons. So she had Willem Alexander, Frizzo, and Constantine. I think that's basically how you pronounce his name. Frizzo died in an avalanche accident. And so that was part of her decision to abdicate as well, is to spend more time with her grandchildren, spend more time with his children in particular. He has 2 daughters. And so I think it's good. Mitz Ziak says, do we have to start GoFundMe for those kids to get some darn shoes? I mean, some people really like being barefoot. I don't like being barefoot. I hate being barefoot. So guys, I have a whole system of slippers. I have varying degrees of slippers based on the needs of the day and the heat index. So we have Birkenstocks with fuzzy bits in them for very hot days. If I'm a little chilly, I can put socks on and put the Birkenstocks on. If I really need an upgrade, I can put my UGG slippers on. If I really, really, really need an upgrade, I have UGG boots that I put on. So I have very soft feet. My duckling says, does no one ever brush Lily's hair? Well, I will say it's obviously not something that Meghan puts a lot of emphasis on, because my mom would never have left my look like that. My mom, okay, I was born in the 80s, but me and my sister mostly grew up in the 90s. So there was this book, and if I ever found it at like a Goodwill or something, I think I would buy it just for the nostalgia factor. But my mom used to make us barrettes that would match our bathing suits. We had matching barrettes for our bathing suits. My mom has always been very, very, very interested in our hair. My mom, even today, she's so funny because this is kind of an ashy tone blonde, but it does kind of after my mom looks at it and goes, she's like, it's gray. I was like, it's really not, it's blonde. And especially as a couple of days go on, it actually kind of really blondes out. I find it, at least anyways. And so my mom's like, well, maybe I can get your gray because I want to go gray, but I don't know how to do it. So me and my mom are just kind of funny. But she's always been very interested in our hair. She always wants us to look good though. I got to give it to my mom. She always wants us to look good. So Stacy says, any news on the Crown Princess's lung transplant? Yes. So she is home. She's recovering. I think they sort of gave a tenuous estimate for her recovery process to be about 6 months, which sounds about right. And she will never be 100%. Like any surgery that's going to be the case. I've had surgery on my foot, on my wrist. Neither one of them are like they were before. They'll never be again. And that's just kind of the fortunate thing. I'm looking forward to maybe getting that a little bit fixed in heaven one day, so I don't have to worry about the extra bone growing out of my foot, which is oh so fun. Yes, I want to call her Samantha, but yeah, it's a bone spur I have growing out of my foot. So which is additional bone that is created as the bones are kind of getting increased friction in places that they shouldn't be. So anyways, if you're curious. So she will never be 100%. I don't think she'll ever really she was always pretty light on royal engagements before. I think that'll continue. She will very much struggle. Like she has to be on anti-rejection meds for the rest of her life. She will be under constant observation. So even when she's quote unquote good, she'll still struggle to recover, but she, thanked the doctors, thanked her family for everything. And Mariusburg Homeby, I need to do a whole update on the Norwegian royals. It's been like, I need to get caught up on them and share because I think people would be interested. So he did technically get out of prison and it ends on home watch. I don't quite understand because he did get convicted to 4 years, so he should be in prison. But I guess this is like the interim between now and like official sentencing. Don't get it. Pepper and Nutmeg's mom says Delphine looked like a giant Viper. The color made it even worse. The shoes or toy like. Yeah, she likes those shoes. I don't get it. And again, there's nothing wrong. Like, this is what kind of annoyed me is that some people are like, well, she's just being an artist. She's just expressing herself. I was like, there is a way to be an artist and express yourself in a constructive manner rather than looking like an idiot and like a clown, because that's what she looked like. And part of what I did with the royal fashion video is like talked about like it's important to dress how you actually like to dress appropriately. Then people won't maybe invite you to certain things or won't trust you with certain things because I guess she apparently in her delusional mind at one point actually lobbied and asked the prime minister if she could have a bigger role. And I'm like, when you show up as reject abysmal, like reject, like Project Runway reject, they cannot remotely by any stretch of the imagination have you as a quote unquote working royal because they don't know what you'll show up in. You have to be presentable. You have to look professional. And she's had these opportunities. And I feel like every year she's devolving and looking worse because she wants to be taken seriously. She wants to be seen as part of the family and no different. Yet at the same time, it's like, well, you have to actually look the freaking part. She doesn't look the part. And if you're a government minister, do you want her showing up in that hideous monstrosity when you're meeting a different country's representatives? No. You can't trust her, so you can't invite her. She's lobbied herself out of the role. That's what's funny. Stephanie Wall says, I love the Dr. tones in your hair. It looks fantastic. Why, thank you. It will kind of, sorry, I bumped the mic. It will kind of lighten up and look a bit blonder, you can say. But like I have a naturally dirty blonde. That's my natural thing. So Rich says, I have unsubscribed to quite a number of channels who cover Harry and Meghan simply being boring and just can't. Yeah, I understand. And that's why I need to get into covering more of the foreign royals. It's just a little bit hard because sometimes it's hit and miss in how those videos do. And so that makes it a bit challenging sometimes. Helen Halund says, how can Meghan use IVF when she has had a hysterectomy in her late 20s? I do not believe she had a hysterectomy, guys. That is just hearsay. That's just hearsay. There is nothing there. To get a hysterectomy in your 20s is insanely rare because doctors really, really try to persuade women against it. It is very, very hard to get it approved. You have to lobby really, 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 really hard to get it approved. Unless obviously you have a catastrophic medical reason, a doctor will never do it. So I think it's just complete and utter hearsay. And again, I think is used sometimes to really dehumanize Meghan. Going, well, she didn't have a like it just leads to kind of worse outcomes. So I just don't like going in that direction. Andrea says, "Isn't Althorp House opened to the public during July and August?" Yes, but it was closed the weekend Harry and Meghan were there. Farrell Monto says, "I agree. King Charles feels ancient, very old." He just really does. He just really does. Carl Gustav feels a lot younger. And Carl Gustav is as well as in great shape. Must be those Scandinavian genes, man. Lulu's video says, so you believe she birthed those children?" I do. I do. I have not seen any convincing evidence to the contrary. Sir Squirrel says, "Exactly right, Brittany. Megan can't be an evil mastermind, but also being stupid, and she cannot run her business. I think it is narcissism that cannot take criticism or being second." I agree. Riley's USA says, "South Park is still undisputed. Meg and Harry are empty vessels." Well, particularly Megan. Particularly Megan is an empty vessel. I mean, again, the woman can't even decorate her house on her own. She has to have Soho House do it. Like Soho House is like her entire freaking identity. It is weird. So weird. So we'll try to wrap this up here in a minute. Riley's USA says, "Would the Sussexes be back in the UK if they had any Hollywood success?" No, 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 no. No, they wouldn't. Aw, Visson T says, "Oh my goodness, Pippa is adorable. She is adorable. She is very adorable." Sharon says, "On MasterChef, why did Megan object to the word royalty? I really don't understand. It's very dumb. It doesn't make any sense." Christine says, "I love a conspiracy theory. LOL." Yes, I mean, I think it's fun to like you can, kind of think of one, but some people definitely go a little bit too much down the rabbit hole. And it's like, if you just don't have anything, you just don't have anything. Just as I would say, as a limit to yourself, think of the gif of Charlie Day. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but when it comes to when it comes to conspiracy theories, this is what, like, if you're doing this, then you've lost the plot a little bit. So hold on. So this is a gif from X. And so if you ever see yourself doing this, then you've kind of like, then probably best to drop the conspiracy. And it's like, if you're having to, there's a joke too from, because I've been thinking about it a little bit this week. There's a joke as well from Big Bang Theory. And Sheldon is asking Leonard about something, and Sheldon's like, "Well, I made it work." And Leonard goes, "Well, you had to create 6 dimensions to get the math to come out." It's like, where are these dimensions coming from? And Sheldon's like, "They're all there." So it's like, if you had to create 6 extra dimensions to make something work, most likely it's not true. That is how I look at things. Like, you usually get 99.9% of the time, guys, the simplest answer is usually the right one. Swim San UK says, "Who else is in that pool?" I actually don't know, to be honest. SHVJ2CE says, "Do you think Harry and Meghan will send Archie to Eton? Louis is almost a year older than Archie. It would be interesting dynamic for sure." I don't know. That would be an interesting dynamic. I'm not sure if Meghan would do that or not. I just don't know. That would only be if they could, like, weasel their way back into the US, or Harry was divorced and Meghan was still like, "Yeah, yeah, send Harry or send Archie to Ian so he could be just like his cousins." I can see that. V London 1449 for a super chat. Thank you so much for that. Saying, "Wondering why the Montecito house didn't get the Soho House treatment, but the former London home did, and the Portugal home reportedly does." I mean, that is an interesting question. That is the interesting question. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe just Marcus helped her with the Montecito one. I don't know. But I mean, I think part of the Montecito house is it's so big, it would be so expensive to kind of decorate and renovate. Harry and Meghan could probably in some ways do things from the ground up with the Portugal house because that was one being built, whereas the Montecito house they were too cheap to do anything with. But that's just my opinion. But that is an interesting thought. Why didn't she do the Montecito house? We haven't heard anything about that. I don't know. That's actually an interesting thought process. Ah, VS Son says, "I love the color blonde you have now. Gorgeous." Why, thank you. It's an ashy blonde. Princess Goose said, I have matching bathing suit with my baby dolls. My mom sewed my bathing suits. That is so cute. Lulu's video says, so everyone believes Archie and Lily are Meghan's bios kids. We have not seen any evidence to the contrary that they are not. So again, just to avoid dehumanizing the children, which I think people sometimes tend to do because they're like, well, they're not kids, they're not real kids, and da 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 da. I just go with the idea until I see evidence to the contrary that they are Harry and Meghan's children and should be treated as children, which means just stay away from the topic is best served, I think, in some ways. You also say she's never denied the hysterectomy rumor. I don't think she has to because I think most people think it's bupkis. Sometimes you just ignore kind of the stupid stuff out there. Harry and Meghan don't always, but this is one sometimes where it's just like so insane and ridiculous that it's just not even worth it. And I think some of that is because most people, I would say, we're not highly engaged in the conspiracies, just don't give it any mind. Rit says if she had a hysterectomy in his 20s, then the stories about her having a pregnancy child agreement with Trevor don't make sense at all. Not possible. And Princess Goose says, who would have had released this information about the hysterectomy? HIPAA laws? Who would she have told? Brittany is right about MDs refusing to do it on younger women. 100%. Unless you had a really, really strong reason to do it, you will not get approved for it. You will not get approved for it because they don't want the liability of a woman coming back in 10 years going, they took out my uterus. Now I can't have kids. And so, like, if you get to, it's so incredibly like, you only do it if it's extreme. Especially in younger, it's only done in extreme situations and those sorts of things. So it happens. Mystic Rose says, I had a hysterectomy at 28. I already had 3 kids. I had so many problems, but that's the only reason doctor perform it. I already had children. Yes. That 100% makes sense. Unless I see, again, new information can come up, but to be fair, guys, I have seen these rumors now for 8 years and nothing has come to fruition with any of them, to be honest. So I just don't think it's worthwhile to pursue, to be honest. And just sometimes, and especially if the royal family, I think if they had actual reason to question things, I think they would have pushed something, but they never did. So I just have to believe, and I think this is correct, that there's just not much there. NP says it wasn't her baby mama dance fake video, some type of evidence to the contrary. People can think that, but a video just doesn't mean much. We don't know the context around it. It was a short video. You just can't. You have to be careful because sometimes there's optical illusions that because people think they see something and nothing's there. Guys, even the alleged popping sound. Guys, there are weird popping sounds that come out of my mic. I have no clue where they came from. For a while, I was having a lot of popping issues with my mic and it was super obnoxious. And I kind of switched it, so it's fine now. But there are so many variables. Here's the thing. People say, well, there can only be one explanation for something looking weird in a Meghan video, and this proves surrogacy. 9 times out of 10, guys, in all those videos, there could be a variety of explanations for certain things. And so because there are so many variety of explanations, you cannot argue that just one proves everything because there's an infinite number of variables that you don't know. You weren't there in person. If you were there in person, things would be different. You weren't there. I was not there. And so without having, I think, anything firm and concrete, that means somebody on record that has gone to a major publication, not just somebody online, because there's a lot of misinformation online, guys, a ton of misinformation online. They need to go to a newspaper of record. Because here's the thing, I've mentioned this before, that when it comes to the mainstream media, I completely understand why they've lost the trust of the people. They did that to themselves. That is on them. But the good thing about the mainstream media compared to what we have now is that the mainstream media must go through a series of checks and balances. You can't just run with any story. Now, that's changed a little bit with the speed of social media and everything and AI. But you can't just go with any story. The story has to be vetted. It has to be scrutinized. You have to be questioned on it. And so people now, though, they can just pop up anything online with very few repercussions. And I think that's in a lot of ways okay because obviously sometimes some things come from that. But I think it's important to understand as well that without that extra verification and that layer of analysis, you get a lot of misinformation, a lot of random theories popping up out there. And after a while, if they're repeated enough, they become fact. And that's sort of the danger. That's why, guys, I go with just mainstream publications. I don't really go with anyone else. And the reason I do that is because, and I haven't really been wrong on anything. I was wrong about how long Harry and Meghan would be married, but I'm generally not wrong because in my analysis, because when you stick with mainstream publications, they have to go through a vetting process. I don't agree with them all the time, and I share what those disagreements are, but I know they have been evaluated. Maybe a lawyer has looked at them. Valentine Lowe almost couldn't go to press with the bullying allegations on Meghan Markle. They had to go through the lawyers. The lawyers were a bit nervous. And I think that's good because you need to make sure that somebody's just not saying something without some sort of merit. There has to be an underlying evidence to something. And so I just think that's important. Not every video tells you exactly what you think it's telling you. It's just an interpretation. And so again, without firm evidence, it's just a theory. So that is how I look at things. So we'll wrap up here in a second. Auntie Z says, I can't abide either of them, but the conspiracy theories about the children not existing require such far-fetched ideas. It's ridiculous. Harry and Meghan's actions are enough to damn them without them. I agree. Pepper and Nutmeg's mom says, do you believe they are separated? I mean, honestly, since somebody pointed out Meghan wasn't in the UK pictures, that makes me think a bit more. But do I think that there are questions out there? Do I think things aren't going well? Do I think there is stress? Yes, I kind of sort of do. Lauren says, thanks, Miss Brittany. I have to go. Well, have a wonderful evening. Jilly Girl says that lumpy belly was ridiculous. I'm sure she just had some sort of monitors on her or something. That's probably why. Jay Tad says, hi, Brittany. Love your channel and commentary. Watching from Manila, Philippines. Why, thank you. Age well with me says, Meghan doesn't need the business anymore. She believes she is back in the R. Maybe she is. Maybe, but she still needs the money, man. She still needs money. That Travel says, when are you coming to Slovenia? It'll be in October. I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. Julie Girl says, Meghan plays games with the media. Is it any wonder she created chaos with the births of her children? No, I 100% agree. The questions over her kids are Meghan generated. 150%, guys. They are Meghan generated. If she didn't act like such a fool when she was pregnant, these questions would not exist. She's the one who caused so much attention to be paid to her belly. People thought she wasn't pregnant. I was like, that's on Meghan, man. Diz fan, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, is it just me or has Harry and Meghan not had the proper talk surrounding death? Probably like what Catherine and William did with when Queen Elizabeth died with their children. I mean, it could be. It could be. I just don't know enough, but yeah, it's just a possibility. I don't think Harry and Meghan are good at talking to their kids about anything. And it's funny because I guess Harry was giving a talk to Santa Barbara first responders about mental wellness. So I was like, the guy who seemingly has mental health issues is giving a lecture on mental wellness. Oh, you can't make it up, guys. But thank you so much, Diz fan. Oh, and DS, what a show today. Have a great weekend, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sure, guys. We really, really do appreciate it. So we will wrap this up here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for 2 hours and 13 minutes. We've had an amazing live stream. Yay! So, guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic weekend wherever you're at. I need to go give Miss Pippa a little bit of her not breakfast, her dinner, because she's a little bit hungry. So, guys, thank you so much again. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll probably hopefully be able to clip some of this and put it up, and I shall speak to you guys again very, very, very soon.